Howdy everyone, and I'm very excited to show you how I've been investing in this channel recently. Here is a Canon EOS R which I've bought for lens testing, and I'd love to take this opportunity to thank all my wonderful supporters on Patreon, who you can see here. Your kind donations have helped towards keeping this channel going and keeping all these new lenses tested away. I got the Canon EOS R instead of the less expensive RP because I wanted that little bit of extra resolution for my lens tests, and the whole spec of the bigger original camera is nicer too, admittedly, although the small size of the EOS RP was a massive temptation. And I went for the EOS R rather than one of Nikon's new Z series cameras because I like testing lenses, and the Canon lenses look a lot more interesting to me. But who knows, in the future I may look into testing Nikon Z equipment too. As I've said many times before, I'd love to review Nikon and Micro Four Thirds equipment, I just don't have enough time to branch out further. Now I'm going to keep this video short and simple. Here is what I like and what I don't about the Canon EOS R. This is absolutely not a technical review at all. If that's what you want, then head on over to DP Review or Camera Labs. This video is just the experience of someone who's mostly been shooting with Sony and Fuji cameras for the past couple of years and is now stepping back into Canon land for some lens testing. Okay, firstly, what I like. The thing that jumped out at me most quickly is how much I love the colours the Canon EOS R can give you in your images. I've been shooting mostly on Sony cameras for about 2 years now, and their colours are fine generally. They're quite good in nearly all situations. Skin tones look a bit too yellow though, in my experience. But coming back to shooting on a high-end Canon camera was a breath of fresh air for me because those Canon colours are just perfect every time. It's like they leap right out of the screen at you. The Canon's JPEG images are full of beautiful, accurate colours and contrast in a way that I just don't quite get with my Sony and Fuji cameras. The pictures you get are just enthralling, especially for landscape photography, and those skin tones in portrait shots are so natural. I love it. Also, I like the quality of the camera's video output. To my eye, its 4K footage is reasonably sharp, but its 1080p footage is excellent, sharp with those great Canon colours and contrast, and there's very little moire patterning. It's a world away from the horrible 1080p footage of earlier Canon cameras. I also love this camera's autofocus system. Finally, we have eye autofocus on a Canon camera, which works nice and accurately, and also works in autofocus servo mode if you update the firmware to version 1.2. In general, the Canon's autofocus system is way faster than my, admittedly slightly older, Sony camera, the Sony A7R II. The Canon EOS R's focus system really is flawless to me, and that counts for a lot, although I should also mention that I haven't put it through any high pressure situations yet, like shooting a wedding. I also like the overall feel of the camera. It's very solid and it fits right into your hand really nicely. It's just the right size and weight for a professional camera, although you wouldn't want it any heavier than this. I like the battery too. Canon's LPE6 and LPE6N batteries are legendary and give you a good deal of shooting time, and I can swap them with my other Canon high-end cameras. I also love the camera's screen and its viewfinder. They're much better than my Sony A7R II, which is, admittedly as I said, an older camera, but the Canon EOS R's screen and viewfinder are great to me because they're so high resolution, and the colours are the same no matter which you're looking through, which I haven't always found with Sony and Fuji cameras. Also, the screen has Canon's fantastic anti-glare and anti-smudge coatings, which make a world of difference to your visibility when shooting outside. I don't think the EOS RP is meant to be as good in this respect. I also like the camera's top screen, which can be made to subtly light up in the dark. I also quite like the mode button you need to press before changing, well, shooting modes. At first I thought I wouldn't like that at all, but I got it right away, and that frees up the dial to adjust your exposure compensation while shooting. And I must be the only reviewer in the world who doesn't mind that new multi-function bar. Well, I guess I'm just a weirdo who likes it because I use it for adjusting white balance, where it works great for me. It is a bit of a flawed control point, admittedly, for all the reasons every other reviewer has pointed out, and I can't see it making its way onto any other Canon cameras in the future, but it works for me. I like the shutter closing to protect the sensor when you're changing lenses. My Sony a7R II seems to get so dusty without that. And also I love the 24-105mm kit lens. A review of that is coming soon, and it's amazing for video work. Another cool feature of the EOS R is the focus guide you can enable if you choose to focus manually. Here it is at work, indicating which direction and how far you need to turn the focus ring, and turning a satisfying green when you've nailed it. Really enjoyable. However, it only works with a lens with an electronic mount attached. A fully manual lens without electronic connections won't work, unfortunately. And finally, I like Canon's official EF to RF mount adapter. Actually, I really hate having to use adapters, but this one is the best out there, I think, feeling absolutely solid between your camera and lens, and giving you flawless autofocus with Canon's older lenses. Really nice. So, those are the main things I really like. Here are the things I don't. Size. The EOS R is not a big camera, but I feel it should have been a bit smaller. For example, look at my Sony a7R II, and that has an in-body image stabilized sensor inside it. One of the main things that tempted me about the EOS RP was its really small size and weight, and I really hope Canon miniaturize their higher spec EOS R cameras a bit more in the future. Also, as I'm sure you all know, there's only one SD card slot. If that's a deal breaker for you, then that's fine, but personally I don't care that much. It would be nice to have had two, though. Some of the camera's ergonomic choices with buttons don't make much sense to me. I wish there were a dial at the back of the camera, and some of the buttons are a bit awkwardly placed. Next, the 1.8x crop when you're shooting 4K in video mode. I want to shoot 4K in full frame mode, end of story. Admittedly, that crop factor is not the end of the world. You can get around it with the right lenses, somewhat, and it can be helpful for telephoto shooting like wildlife photography, but come on Canon, get with the times please. I really don't like any suggestion that the lens features USB charging either. To me, that means you can plug it into a computer or phone charger, like other cameras can, but not with the EOS R. Trust me, I've tried. You'll need a bulky special charger to do that, so you might as well just carry an extra battery or two. And most significantly, this camera lacks in-body image stabilization. Come on Canon, come on, this is really important, it's 2019. So, what do I think overall? Well actually, I love the Canon EOS R and I'm having a blast learning how to shoot with it. If I could only have one camera though, I'm afraid it would definitely still be my little Sony a7R II. That's not going anywhere. It's smaller, I have some gorgeous little lenses to go with it, it has in-body image stabilization, it shoots 4K in full frame, and of course it's far higher resolution. Honestly, you can find a new Sony a7R II for about the same price as a Canon EOS R these days, so I have to recommend the Sony camera over and above it, but still, no matter how much better its specifications might be, the pictures it makes and the colours it gets don't really hold a candle to the Canon camera. I just love those Canon images. Canon, you need to get some great, small-sized, affordable RF lenses out there for us, please, as soon as possible, and get the features in your cameras a little more competitive. Full-frame mirrorless cameras are the future, but complacency in the face of competition will only lead to the graveyard.